Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the regular school committee meeting on Monday, June 7th. If everyone can please rise to say their pledge of allegiance, and it's my understanding that the flagpole would be that way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to read our school committee statement. The committee represents the needs of all Leominster Public School students and places their interests above all others. We will exercise leadership, adhere to our protocols, and base our decision upon a reasoned assessment of all available information. We will advocate for each of our schools and support high-quality public education in Leominster. With that being said, we're going to open up our public comment, but before I do, if anybody in the audience is recording this besides the TV, please announce yourself at this time. Okay, having no one come forward. We do have one person who has sent in a written statement, and I'm going to have Chris read the statement on that person's behalf, and then I will ask members in the public to come up to the microphone located over here to my left. Do you have it, Chris? Yep.
It's from Amy. It's from Amy Minor. I live at 12 Washington Place here in Leominster. For personal reasons, I cannot attend in person, but would very much appreciate if the following could be read during public comment. First, a quick congrats to all who are celebrating the end of this year. The accomplishments are outstanding. Second, I want to publicly thank the school committee and beyond for the instant support I received once I reached out with concerns that DESE had taken the remote learning option off the table for September. I was put at ease fairly quickly, learning that the school committee had already prepared for this and were in process of advocating for medically vulnerable families such as mine, families who may not have the option of being fully vaccinated before and forced return, simply due to their child's age. However, it seems the committee's efforts alone may not be enough for a change at the state level. For this reason, I will be asking City Council to throw their support behind the school committee to help advocate for the safety and protection for the youngest members of the community they represent. There are 2 City Council meetings in June. The first will address the school committee budget that is scheduled for June 14th and to interview for the controller's position. This is a critical position to both the schools and the city's budget, meaning it is most important to us, the taxpayers. The second City Council meeting will address the city budget. I urge the public to please tune in to both of these meetings in an effort to help keep all our students safe while implementing a fair and equitable education. Lastly, a loud shout out to all of our teachers who have not stopped working for the past 15 months and then some, to allow for a safe learning environment. Your efforts have literally saved lives, and my family thanks each of you for it. You are essential, and your hard work does matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Would anybody like to address the committee? Please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everybody. Greg Thomas, 310 Leggett Hill Road. I'm here to speak to the committee tonight on behalf of children of this community, the state. The most important thing right now is that we've gone back, we've had a successful return, some amazing teachers, amazing administrators have made it happen. But we need to look at what's next. We need to look at what is in the best interest of children. What's in the best interest of children is to have the elementary school students take their masks off and return to a full and normal day of education. The children of this community are, they're at a point where they feel like in-person education is a privilege. It's something that allows them to stay up past their bedtime on a Saturday night or have ice cream before dinner. They're afraid to speak up. And what they need right now is they need the full return to normalcy. All the evidence out there and the science that's behind this say that children just are not transmitters of COVID. That they're low likelihood of transmitting to other children, other adults, and that's evident by the amount of vaccinations happening in adults. As vaccinations in adults goes up, the likelihood of cases in children are going down. So I know that this is a decision at a state level that needs to be made, but please use your political influence to influence the decision at a state level to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the committee? Come forward, please.
Rob Volpe, 20 Shaling. Good. All right. So on May 5th, I've been emailing this committee about a in-person return. I'm a little upset that little to no planning went in to consider parents who easily could have been home streaming this, or the lack of investigating how LTV works. Many of you are under the assumption that LTV was live today, they're not. So you got 100 people plus who've been actively engaged in the School Committees Act. It's going on for several months now. All sitting home in the dark, and nobody cared. Nobody even looked into this. I asked 30 days ago for you guys to consider everybody included. And obviously the community is very invested into this. And nobody did the due diligence. I'm going to end just by saying, in the fall you locked your kids out. Tonight you locked the parents out.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the committee? One more time, would anybody else like to address the committee? Please come forward. And one last final time, if anybody would like to address the committee, please do so now. Having no one come forward, we're going to close that portion of our meeting. We're going to move on to communications, Superintendent.
There are no communications this evening?
Thank you. We'll move right into the superintendent report.
Well, as many of you know, Leominster has been having days and days of celebrations. Last week, we were able to graduate on Saturday 462 of the finest, most resilient students that we could have ever hoped for. A few days prior to that, we graduated 10 from LCE who are now also moving on to bigger and better careers. We also had an arts celebration where students displayed all of their talent, and we had students from the art having signage programs. It's truly been so uplifting, bringing children together. The high school has created this new venue, an outdoor garden, that we're able to do these. And so I just want to thank everybody. This was a community effort. The celebrations have been the best that we've seen. Every year I say graduation is the best day of the year. This was the best one, besides the sunburn. But the students, for 462 to cross that stage as quickly as they did, truly a community should be celebrating this. We also had another celebration last week, which was new and sort of unique. One of our crossing guards won a state award out of 173. David Ledger, who has been a crossing guard over in Northwest and very endearing. We talked about, this year has been about, it's a village. And our crossing guards look out for our children every single day. They move between buildings, whatever it takes. And so for David to get this award was really heartfelt. And he was so honored that he was placed in that role, but very well deserving. And so many of you probably know him. He's been with us for quite a while, so we want to give him another shout out. So congratulations, David. Summer school programming, huge success so far. We've doubled our enrollment. Things are closing down quickly. We need, for anyone who is still interested or would like to be a part of it, to sign up and register. We need to get transportation in place. Time is moving so quickly. I mean, it's already June 7th. These programs will be starting sooner than we know, and we want as many students involved in something this summer as possible. So let us know. All our programs are free. Don't worry about it. Transportation is available, so let us know if there is something that we can provide for your child. And lastly, I know that it's been a really busy time for everyone, and when everybody else is slowing things down, we're ramping things up. We not only have to get ready for summer school programming, but we're already looking at the fall with all new guidance and all new changes. And we have been sending orders of purchases next door to our purchasing agents, and they're pushing them out as fast as they can. So we wanted to give a heartfelt thank you to the city's purchasing department for keeping the schools moving as seamlessly as possible. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would like to suggest that we move the agenda down to the presentation 2E, presentation from the booster clubs, and then do the executive session. We always do the executive session at the very end of the night. People have been up all day, they're tired. We didn't have all the information that we needed last time for executive session, so I'm proposing or making a motion that we skip the order of business and move to of the presentation from the booster club, and then go to executive session.
So we do have our attorney coming, and he will be here around 8:15 for executive session. So we do have a motion and a second. Maybe we can take them separately, Dean? So like the booster club, if you don't mind, might be something that people might have a different opinion of, as opposed to the executive session. And would you like to come join us?
I really an objection to the way they set this up tonight. It's pitch dark in here. Everyone's sitting a foot away from each other. I'd prefer to sit here, if that's okay. No, I didn't. Was there some sort of a communication saying that the attorney would be here at 8:15? Because if it was, I missed it.
So he's going to be here for our meeting. He just literally texted me to say he would be here around 8:15.
And we need the attorney to go into the executive session?
So that's what he's coming here for, yes. You were specifically the person who wanted the attorney here last time, and so we invited him this time as we were talking about similar issues. So
Okay.
if you...
I really do object. We do this every time. We have a big agenda, then at the very end of the night, when things that require people's patience and people have been up all day, and we get to this, and then we come back out of executive session to vote when there's nobody left, people have tuned out, and I strongly object to that. We have no choice if he's coming till 8:15, but I'd like to at least move up to the booster club. So I'll separate my, I just amend it to the booster club, and then as soon as the attorney gets here, we go to an executive session.
Well, I think we have other people here. I mean, we can take your motion and have discussion. Is there a second to Dean's motion?
I'll second.
So there's a first and a second. Is there any other discussion before we vote?
This is just for the booster presentation?
So Dean had mentioned the booster club, but then said, as soon
Then go
as
as far as you can on the agenda, but as soon as the attorney gets here at 8:15, we go into recess. That's all. We'll just keep going until 8:15.
because we do have other people like the food service and other people here who equally, need to present and get ready for the next day, would be my only concern. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I would be fine with going into executive session at 8:15 and then, then the attorney isn't waiting either.
Whatever he gets here, it's 8:15, whatever. But I think we can get through most of this.
But just for reference, there had been a discussion before about keeping people waiting. Well, we had an executive session during the middle of the meeting previously, so.
Right, I think either
Both
way,
sides.
people are unhappy. Right. We're not gonna please everyone. So there's a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor, raise your hand. We have Dean, Sue, Brandon, and Melissa is on. I'm sorry, I can't really. Was your hand raised?
Yeah, my hand goes.
Okay. All right, so it looks like the motion carries.
Dean, Sue, Brandon. Oh, sorry.
Melissa?
Sorry. Okay.
All right. So we're going to then move into presentation of the Booster Club. If someone would like to come forward.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Palazzi. I'm the athletic director at Leominster High School. First, I'd like to thank all of the school committee members for this year. It's been a very trying year on many of us, and I really appreciate our athletic department. I'm sure the whole city of Leominster really appreciates it. If they don't appreciate it, they should, because you guys have worked tirelessly to make this work for all the students in the city of Leominster and for everybody that goes to school. You've done your very best. So I just wanted to say that before I kind of get into my presentation. So just really quick, we've started this in 2019 to try to merge all of these existing booster clubs that we have in the city. For our athletic booster clubs, we currently have 3 that are 501(c)(3)s, and we're trying to merge that into one all Leominster High School booster club. So what we've done is Rick Marchand really, went out of his way to try to transition the existing football booster club into the Leominster High School athletic booster club. He has done that through the state. The paperwork is ready to go. We had everything dialed up and ready to go. When the pandemic hit, we had a fundraiser that was scheduled for May of 2020. We didn't have a spring season. So with all of that has happened, these existing booster clubs that currently have 501(c)(3)s, have all of the coaches that spoke to the current members of those booster clubs, and they are going to merge into our Leominster High School athletic booster club. So the hardest part right now has been recruiting and trying to get enough people for a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. We have about 4 or 5 commits at this time, trying to get maybe people in the city that want to help out and be involved in this, that aren't necessarily parents of kids that are playing high school sports. I think I found a couple of those, but right now I'm really working with the current coaches and parents and existing booster club members for all of these other booster clubs that exist now, and try to get something together in the summer, which we will do. And moving forward, all of the coaches know that it's only going to be one booster club working for all of our athletic programs at Leominster High School. So it's been a complex situation trying to pull all this together with everything that's gone on, but it's really ready to take off in the fall of 2021.
Dave, are you sort of reaching out to maybe the upcoming 8th graders who will be 9th graders next year?
Yes, that's
their
a very
parents-
good point. So through some of our existing freshman parents and sophomore parents, they kind of know the people that have been involved in the 8th grade and the travel-ease and things like that they really want what's best for their child in athletics at Leominster High School. So all of that's going out now to send up the sign-ups for the fall sports electronically. We're getting all of those things together and really trying to get as much information as we can to the middle schools, both middle schools for the 8th grade, the incoming freshmen.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions for Dave? Go ahead, Melissa.
So could you kind of give an overview for the different types of expenses that boosters are paying for as opposed to the athletic department?
The only thing that booster clubs that are in place for right now are really more so for the student athletes with bags and warm-ups and gear that they would wear before the games and things like that. That's kind of been the status quo for a lot of these booster clubs. So it's really they're doing their own fundraisers to kind of take the program to the next level. I mean, the city and the school department does a terrific job of funding our athletic programs, I think, from what I've seen the last 3 years. So all these booster clubs are really in place to try to take it to the next level, which again would be football bags, hockey bags, lacrosse gear, things like that.
So uniforms and like
No,
equipment,
no.
that's not something.
No, never, like the school department, I mean, it's in our budget to provide uniforms.
Have all of the boosters voted to dissolve? I know we said that there are 3 currently in place.
They really haven't voted, I mean, it's just as the athletic director and trying to have something, an opportunity for all teams to have access to a booster club. I think, coaches that are working for me are really gonna have to utilize the booster club that we're gonna develop. So I think, but with that said, I know a lot of the coaches have spoken to their current booster clubs and, they understand what's going on and they're more or less ready to move forward.
And I know last year the athletic advisory met with a whole bunch of more booster clubs than the 3 that you're mentioning, and everybody at that point in time was on board. I think things obviously got derailed with the pandemic, but I know there was a lot of outreach because there's, it's very difficult if you're like the golf team when there's just so few people as opposed to the football team where there's a ton of people. So the fundraising is much different. And this kind of makes it equitable across all sports.
So there is currently a board, there's an organization, but there's not currently a full board, is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. So we have some members, but obviously we're going to have enough people to be on the board and get involved. So that's in the works. That kind of got stopped with the pandemic and then the seasons being lumped together one after the other. So, but again, we have 4 or 5 people right now that have committed and more to come.
So you feel it's viable for fall sports?
Yes, it's going to have to be. I mean, that's kind of where we're headed.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So at this point, why don't we move on to, I know things are sort of mixed up.
We have another, Eileen,
Yep.
we have another booster.
Oh, I'm
Anthony
sorry,
and
please come forward. I didn't realize.
I apologize if I shifted around too much because I had car accident on Tuesday.
Oh, no. Sorry
So
to hear that.
that's a little tender. I am Kathy Gallant. I am the treasurer for the Leominster Music Boosters. This is our first time coming before the school board. We were formed in 1986 after the funding was cut for the music program, and the booster organization is responsible, I would say, for a good 80 to 90% of the funding for the Leominster Music program, for the marching band, the concert band, jazz band. We do various fundraising throughout the year to try to raise funds for our operating budget, do donor solicitation to various companies in the community. We hold a calendar raffle every December to raise funds for our Disney performance program that's held every 3 years. And that is usually where we net a lot of our earnings for the students. We do the concession stands at the football games, every home game, have donation cans out at the concession stands for our scholarship fund. And we also have a gala every single year up until COVID, where it was in person, that was held at the DoubleTree Sheridan, where it was dubbed the Ice Ball. This year it was a virtual performance where we did it online and sold tickets online, and people were able to view it over the course of the weekend. And we changed the name of it from Ice Football to Spring Fling. And it was a really, really good success. Usually during the spring, we don't have too many fundraisers because we have so much going on with performances and things of that nature. And then, of course, we perform usually at the graduation and other several community events during the year. COVID put a damper on our fundraising efforts quite a bit this year. We were not able to have any football games this fall, so we were not able to do concession stands. We were not able to have the calendar raffle this year just because of all the monotony that was going on with COVID and schools being shut down. And so that really, it took away a lot of our efforts that we normally do for these kids. And that goes from covering insurances, covering transportation, covering competition fees. We are in desperate need of new uniforms. The uniforms that these kids currently are wearing were ordered 2 years after I graduated from high school in 1992, and they're falling apart. We are constantly sending them to the tailors to be mended, to be altered, to fit children that are not able to fit into one uniform. We have combined uniforms to make one. We have altered them for younger students. We have students in the marching band that are from middle school age all the way up to senior in high school. So not all of these uniforms are one size fit all. And so the bulk of our fundraising this year has been to try to obtain new uniforms. One new uniform for one band student is in upwards of $500 to $600 a piece. That's the complete uniform. That's not including shoes, that's not including gloves, and it's not including their instrument. This is just the jacket, the pants, and the hat. And it has been a long, hard struggle to get that far. We currently have, since last year, we have raised for that uniform account $4,650. In order to have 50 uniforms, we need to have 30,000. In order to have 100 uniforms, which is where we want to see that band to be, we need $60,000 in order to get new uniforms. We don't have those kind of funds, and we really do need the city and the community's help in order to get to that particular level. These kids have worked their butts off. Over the last 2 years with COVID, we put on a smashing performance this year virtually. They were so excited. It was the first time that they had a light in their eyes since COVID came about. And for us, this is the first time that we've ever had to present before you all before. And fundraising right now, we don't know what the new year is going to bring. We honestly don't. We brought in a little over, with the ticket sales from the Spring Fling, we brought in a little over $2,200 for the auction that we had for it. Let me get that open here. For the auction that we had, we brought in $1,565. And we had expenses of about $463 associated with the Spring Fling, and that was virtually. Had that been a normal in-person year, our expenses for our Spring Fling or our ice football would have been in upwards of $10,000. So we don't even know what kind of profit we would have gotten from that particular in-person event had we had it. So we did rather well, I think, with the virtual. We have had 0 operating donations this year because of COVID. Our previous year, we had $4,900 in donations from the community. Most of our efforts have been through Facebook fundraising, where you would put a virtual campaign out and say, I'm raising funds for this, will you help me out? And we would just post it all over the place shamelessly. And so through that is how we were able to raise the $4,600 for the uniforms that we have so far. But it's going to take a lot more, and we need a lot more help, and we need the backing of the city and of the school committee to try to get these kids into new uniforms, 30-year-old uniforms. You know, I've been at high school 30 years next year, and that's how old these uniforms are.
Plus, we also know that the budget that the music department gets here is actually split between band and chorus. So they don't get a lot in the budget. So we do know that, and that's how it's been for the past few years, that I've been part of the booster club. So I don't know how far back that goes.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Steve?
These people have been at it for years. It's the same thing. They're always left out at the end. They do all the fundraising themselves. They have to run the concession stand, clean the concession stand. They're the only group in the system. We transferred $6.5 million last meeting out of salary over to expenses. I can't even imagine that we can't afford to help these people out. I mean, these people, there isn't a day I don't get some sort of an email or something, or raising money, or coming to get gift baskets or something constantly. We transferred $6.5 million. There should be absolutely no reason that I can think of that we can't help these people. Do you have a budget on how much you need?
For the uniforms itself, we still need another $55,000. In order to operate on a normal year for the boosters itself, it takes between $36,000 and $40,000 a year to operate this band to its fullest capacity. Busing alone last year, we spent almost $4,000.
You have to raise that money for busing?
Yes.
Our budget tonight is $8.6 million in transportation. These people have to go out and raise their own money to transport kids to events that we ask them to come to, that represent our community throughout the state. I would ask the finance committee, maybe if you can meet offline with them and see if there's something. This is our budget. This is the school committee's budget, Mike. You're a guru at it. I would suggest maybe some time. I'd be glad to sit with you. See if I don't know if we could come up with all 55,000, but maybe over 2 years, we can get them back on their feet. This is what we did last time when, they were down to 7 members of the band, and we bought all new uniforms and everything, and we survived the fiscal year, and it wasn't easy either. So that's my proposal. I would think that we might be able to do something to help them out, maybe over 2 fiscal years, but at least to get them going.
I do know that the goal was to have the uniform for the next trip down to Disney.
Which is when?
Which is December of 2022.
December of
They
2022.
usually
Do you
go
have
in
an
March,
idea?
but this year they're moving.
I know, like, teams have transitional years where more kids leave, and do you have an idea of how many kids you're potentially looking at if everyone returns?
I know we are, this year's losing 11 seniors. And I don't know how many more might not be coming back, we don't know. But that is, right now it's 11 seniors that are.
So if everyone else remains,
So you have incoming
potentially
coming up.
kids,
I know.
you have a
From the into the
ballpark
middle
of how many
school.
kids we think we need, even if we can't field 50 or 100, do we have an idea for December of 2022, how many we need to get everybody dressed?
I know that the middle school programs are waxing and waning right now. I know that the director is planning on doing some sort of a recruitment for when they do the instrument signups for rentals. So he plans on being present there when that takes place to kind of give them a little info session on what it is to be in the marching band with the Leominster School District. Now, I know he's playing an information meeting tomorrow. as well for incoming parents. The sticky part of all of this is that for competition purposes, you cannot have a child below 7th grade in the band for you to be able to compete at NESBA and at MICA. And so we just returned to MICA last year, and they placed third, their first competition.
Micah and 2019 was our first Micah competition.
That was our first competition, returning to the competition circuit, and they placed third in the state, which was amazing. But we also have to be careful. We do have some 6th graders that are in the band this year, but they will be moving up to 7th grade. So we've been hard pressed not to try to go below 7th grade for the competition reason. But we are going to be putting that presence out to the middle schools to try to recruit more members. When I was recruited, I was in 6th grade, and back then, they didn't have the NESBA and the MICA competitions, but with the way that things are set up right now, we can't go below 7.
So, obviously, I would certainly support us trying to figure out a way to fund, and certainly uniforms I would think would fall very similar to athletic uniforms for the marching band that's representing, the school. So we can certainly take a look at that.
May I just ask, yes, we worked with the LEF to make a sizable donation. I'm wondering if we
We have
received
not
that.
received that yet.
So the LEF is making a $20,000 donations towards uniforms specifically. So they're just waiting for that check as well.
Perfect. That really cuts that almost in half.
Yeah. I mean, every little bit helps. Every amount that we fundraise for helps. Just this year, we took a tremendous hit. We do a majority of our fundraising out in the community, and with COVID and job losses and revenue sources not being there, a majority of our operating budget comes from the football concessions. And because we haven't had that this year, we're, that can be anywhere between a $10,000 and $18,000 revenue source for us. And we lost it all, every single last bit of it.
And there was no breakfast at the band.
Yep, no breakfast at the band, nothing. Yeah,
or something.
and it's become, a really tight spot because we have all of our annual filings that we have to pay for, and we pay for that out of our own pockets. We didn't do any competitions this year, so that was fine. We didn't have any busing issues, obviously, this year, which is fine. Coming to this new school year, we're going to have all of this, all these issues, and we won't have the funding to be able to provide that without some hardcore fundraising and community donations.
It's like a full-time job to you.
It is. It seriously is, and just our insurance alone is over $2,000 a year. Insurance.
Right, then that's because you're doing things outside of the school spectrum.
Yeah.
So you're not covered under the school insurance.
Yeah.
But they're representing
This is more
us.
for finance or the board. So MIAA has a lot of restrictions on what school funding and what boosters, who can pay for what. Is there an equivalent with a band program booster of all of this? Or can the school committee fund the whole thing and the band can use it for?
Well, we can't fund the booster club, we could decide to fund uniforms or something like that.
If
You
you
can't
have a
fund the
band
booster club.
program, is there a minimum amount or percentage of the program we need to fund beyond the teacher's salary?
Yeah, I don't think they have standards,
Okay.
same as the MIAA, but. Also under the American Recovery Act, it takes into consideration lost revenue. And while they may not be funded by us 100%, I would assume the superintendent and the school committee could use some of our recovery money to help fund them because of lost revenues. Now, you'd have to make a good case for that, but I just can't. I can't see that. These people work really hard, and they're still at it.
I certainly see that uniforms would, potentially come under the purview of the school department, just like athletic.
the last time
uniforms?
we performed, we had actually 2 uniforms open up during the zippers just broke off
Broke open.
during competition.
Yeah.
These kids just went right with it. They did not, because one of those was my daughter.
Yeah, all right, so that's, obviously, we appreciate you coming forward, and that's certainly something that we will need to investigate, and, you know, it's good that you came forward, because we were not necessarily aware of maybe the dire need.
Can you give us a couple of options, like option A is to fund the whole thing, option B is to fund it over 2 fiscal years, option C is you get 20,000 from the Leominster Education Foundation, we could use another 20,000 or 10. That would help, just so we all have
And
an
might
idea of what options are available in the event that you
And
don't have
I
all
was
of it
gonna
to
say,
be able
Dean,
to do.
also what vendor they're using, we might need to make sure we have, if we are going to pay for
Usually state
it,
bid,
we wanna make sure that it's a vendor that we can utilize.
usually it's a
Should
state
we,
bid.
get our information to?
The band director has the name of the uniform company that he had, one of the students designed the uniform. And so,
Eileen, while we're looking for that,
Yeah.
just for comparison purposes, I'm wondering if you know the average lifespan of a uniform and how much over that we are.
Well, apparently 30 years.
I'm guessing that's not average.
Right, but is it 10 years, 5 years?
Dry clean.
yeah,
Right,
they need to
right.
be
These
able to.
ones that we're looking at are not dry clean. They are, they can go to.
These can go into the regular wash.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
But, yeah, we have to make sure that they're done the same
yeah,
way.
our current uniforms, our dry cleaning bill is anywhere from $600 to $800 a season.
And they're heavy. Those
They're
uniforms
very
right
heavy.
there can be worn year round with, if it's in the winter time, they can wear like another shirt underneath and it won't fit, you know, they stay warm. This company that they use, that he wants to use, actually makes them for Wisconsin, green, you know.
Yeah, big-
the very
The cold
climate.
states, yeah.
Very sharp looking. So I think if you can get your information to the superintendent's office, and then she can disseminate it, and it looks like something that the finance committee
Absolutely.
would take a look at.
Yeah, I mean, definitely option A would be full funding, get this, aside from what LEF has donated, whatever the remainder is to at least get the uniforms.
What
You know,
might be helpful is to get, like, if they can just give you some invoices, like,
Mhm.
you know, to have a sense, because, you know, obviously you're gonna be ordering for whatever size children are currently
Right.
students, but certainly you
All the
always
way up.
need probably a few extra to bigger and smaller sizes.
Right, smaller, bigger sizes, exactly. You know, so I mean, option A, in order to get them, you know, to be available for their next Disney performance at the end of 2022, option A would be full funding, you know, minus whatever LEF has graciously donated thus far. Option B, over the 2 years, we would rather do, you know, option A if possible, especially where the fragility of the uniforms that they're currently using, we never know when they're going to fall apart.
So
You
you're
know,
looking for like another 30,000.
yeah, because the 20,000, plus we've got about almost 5,000 in there right now. So yeah, I would say another 30,000. So,
But we can get the information out.
Yeah, if you can get it, just to
Yeah.
nail it down a little bit more
Yeah.
specifically,
just write it up for me.
yes,
and then,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
Kathy makes things out of her little electronic
Yeah.
smidget and sells them on her own, and,
Yeah.
I mean, they really go the distance.
I run a business out of my home, a graphic design business. And I tell you, between this and that and working, yeah, I'm busy. But, I mean, yeah, you know, I was a 7-year alumni of this band. I graduated from this high school. This organization served me well. I decided to give back. The least that I can do, I'm stepping down at the end of this school year. The least I can do is try to get this started and get them the new uniforms that these kids deserve, because I tell you, they have worked so hard. There's been a lot of blood, sweat, tears, more screaming, more tears, more screaming this year, more than anything. And these kids so much deserve it. And you know, it's our worry going into the next school year with the budgeting, you know, because we've lost so much that we want to make sure going out that they're going to be okay.
We appreciate your passion and dedication. Sue, did you have a comment
Yeah,
or a question?
I don't want to date us, Steve, but, you know, do
Don't.
you remember when we first
No,
got
I
on the
wasn't there.
committee? Well, we bought the uniforms for you, Cheryl.
Yeah, while you were in
Cheryl
school.
was on the school committee. Do you
Oh my
remember
God,
Cheryl?
yes.
So you must have been a student.
I graduated in 1992. I first joined the band when this booster organization incorporated in 1986.
Right.
I was in the marching band from 1986 until 1992.
No, so we funded, we supported the uniform purchase. And
I
totally
think the
support it.
warranty's up. I think we got our money's
Yeah,
worth.
We got our
out of it.
money's worth for
Yeah.
sure.
30
Yeah.
years.
And you held it together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing that to our
Yeah,
attention.
thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Yes.
I just, I mean, thanks for bringing this to our attention. I've always advocated that we should cover as much for students as we can within the appropriation that we have. So I'm looking forward to looking into what we can do. I do want to correct one thing. The transfer last time was $3 million, not
I'm
6.5.
sorry.
But, you know, it still sounds like a lot of money, but I want to make sure we have the correct.
I stand corrected.
Thank you, Mike.
I still would like to get them some of that.
Sure. No, I think we're all on board with that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there any other booster clubs?
Yes.
You're a booster club? If you are a booster.
Sorry, we ran out of money.
Thank you.
Take time and run.
Hi, I'm Melinda Delaire with the Lacrosse Boys Booster Club. And I think we were in the meeting before when we talked about this. And our booster club was really anxious to do the one booster. We actually sat down with the subcommittee, went over bylaws, sent the bylaws to the attorney. Attorney approved them. So we were 100% on board because we felt the way it was set up, where we were getting donations from the community annually and setting it up so each team would be able to have it earmarked for them so they could go out and sell a little decal and say, I'm a supporter of the one booster club at Leominster High. It would work. Shortly thereafter, we being told that everything looked good, should we move forward? And we're like, yes, let's move forward. I got a phone call and I was told it's not happening, the bylaws weren't well. And hearing through, and again, it's hearsay, but I heard that they didn't want parents involved. And that was one of the things we put in the bylaws. And I still 100% stand by it, that the booster club should be run on the board by parents of students, because us parents, we will fight to death for our kids. The band parents will fight to the death for their students. And there's spots on to be a part of the booster club if you don't have a child in the school district, but it should be run by parents. We have not been given, and I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't know about this meeting until a couple hours ago. We haven't been given a copy of the bylaws, and I would really love to look at the bylaws and see, I mean, when this first came up back and we started those meetings, I spent hours online looking at one boosters across the country, printing theirs. I found towns that had just started it, so they had fresh bylaws that were done just the previous year. So we combined and looked at it. To be a successful one booster, you do need to have an annual fundraising for the booster club. It has to have a membership, and the membership could be earmarked to a specific sport or just overall umbrella. That allows the teams to get what they need. As lacrosse boosters, we help do the player packs for their warm-up gear. We work at sending our boys we send them to the NCAA championships when they were in Foxborough. Gillette. It was a something. We sent them, one of our alumni was playing a college playoff game at LaSalle, and we got last minute, we got a bus together, and we sent our players down so they could see a college game. And a couple of them, it spurred them, and they really fought hard, and they are playing in college now. So we work to do that kind of stuff. So having parent involvement is very crucial for the Booster Club. At this point, we're not 100% saying we're not going to do the one booster, but we have concerns. And another concern, I know that they were working off the boosters nonprofit number, and from what I understand, that was originally called something else. It got changed to the football booster, and if it's a 50, thank you. You can only change the name once, so that cannot be changed. So we should not use that nonprofit. So it should actually be from scratch, a totally new one, and start it clean. So, and like I said, I've done a deep dive. I've looked into all this. There's taxes that have to be filed, so we definitely need to get an accountant on board and all that kind of stuff. But I really think it needs to be parent involvement, and it does need to have a membership, an annual fundraiser, along with annual events like a golf outing or whatever we want to do. But I do think that those are things that should be in consideration if we're going to go to the one booster.
I had been involved through the athletic advisory. I'm surprised to hear that because the whole idea was that it was going to be run by parents, and that they had originally somebody who was spearheading it, but the object was then to have elections when the new year came, because we were kind of at the end of the year, and then the parents would be taking it over. So I'm surprised to hear you say that, because I don't think that was the original intention, and I'm not sure how accurate that is, and I see Dave shaking his head too. So that's something we certainly, people should look into, and Dave can look into, because that was not the understanding.
Absolutely, we want parents involved, without question. We want to try to include everybody, coordinate this to make it work for every team. That's the goal.
Community members, but.
Yeah, community members should definitely be on it. I mean, because it's
That's
a
for your
village,
fundraising
So
support circle.
maybe we should get an update from somebody to share with everyone that was involved, so we all know where we're at, because
Yeah.
I don't
So
think
I
I'm up to
think
date.
Dave can
Yeah.
give Dave a job, on top of his 9 million other jobs, but to look into that, and, obviously the bylaws need to be, given to all booster clubs and stuff like that. And it should have been voted on by the membership.
Yes. So, and I know the one, I don't know where or when they're meeting to post it, because I have not seen anything for when.
I don't think there has been one since COVID hit. Is that Ron?
Yeah, I was having a little hard time hearing. Who made the decision that the parents were not to be involved? Where did that come from?
I heard it through the grapevine.
Okay, but
Yeah, I don't
what-
know if that's accurate.
Who directed that? Was it from the state?
No,
No.
it was from people.
Well, to clarify, when we voted on the booster, if I remember correctly, the president, the vice president, the treasurer, and the secretary, none of them were parents. I think there were some parent representatives, but I think they were all of currently now senior parents. So I think that's part of the fluctuation, is that parents have lost some of the investment because those that were put on the board now no longer have skin in the game. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
But it sounds, Melissa, like it works in other communities, so I'd be just
Oh,
interested.
yeah.
I know very little about this,
It
so.
definitely works. My children play lacrosse, where we have a booster, and they also play field hockey, that does not have a booster. So I see it on both ends, and I 100% agree, there needs to be a program. But it just needs to be set up properly, correctly, with good bylaws, and
So we'll get an update, and then we can
Yeah.
chat about it
My
again.
other question is as follows. As she was saying, you're the grapevine. What does MIAA say?
They don't have anything to do with booster clubs.
the only rule really with
Well, I thought they
MIAA,
do.
the rule is the booster clubs cannot supply any clothing or equipment used on
On
the
the
field,
field, so
or in play, so court, field, ice, whatever. So
They
the
can't
booster club cannot support
supply the
anything for the.
footballs, the uniforms, the.
I think the
golf
problem
clubs,
lies
baseball
with
diamonds.
one, we saw it saw the narrative. Where the narrative is, what general law is it, how does it govern, and how does it apply to us? Because right now, we're just talking in the wind. We don't know where it came from. We don't know how it came.
Well, we don't, right, so,
It's an exercise, to me, it's an exercise in futility.
right, so we do need to, Ron, you're right, to have a further discussion in the bylaws examined and, you know, I think Dave's trying to get a committee together so you can have those officers, because I think the people who started it are no longer involved.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, the boosters are technically separate entities
Yes,
from
correct.
school committee.
Yes,
school
they
board.
have to report to us, but we don't oversee them.
So we have no control over what their bylaws are. We have no control over whether the lacrosse boosters choose to join the one group or not. It's all up to them.
Correct.
Our job is simply that they're helping us, and we expect reports like this because
Make sure
you're
the money's
using
not
our
being
name.
mismanaged.
Right? You're using our name.
They're trying to
You're
check the balance, and that's why.
raising money
But
on
I
behalf
guess
of our athletes, so
my
we
concern
should have
is
some oversight.
there was kind of maybe by error or some omission, because it was implied that they were, all of the sports were joining or were planning on joining, and now we're hearing maybe they're not all doing that, right? And then some were invited and some weren't invited, so just putting that up there, just by
Right.
omission, I'm sure.
So we'll do a
So
follow-up.
ultimately, that's not up to us, so we should encourage them to talk to each other some more,
Right.
because it sounds like there's a
When we first started
communication
a few
issue.
years ago, we did have meetings and all the different boosters or parents that kind of worked as a non-booster. We all got together and started talking about it, so.
Yeah. And so that needs to happen again, and obviously COVID sounds like impacted it.
Yeah.
But I think Dave can be the liaison to get people maybe in the same room together.
All right, that's, we just wanted
No,
to.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's helpful.
Thank you.
Any emails or communications you want to send so we know what's going on? Because
No.
it's all new to me.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other booster clubs out there? If not, can we have the Chartwells folks do their presentation? Chris, Bob, and Carrie, if you guys can come on down.
Kyle, this is Chartwell's.
Thank you. The award-winning chapel.
Yes. I have one, thank you. They have one, yes. Okay, ordered them. Yep. Thank you.
This is one of our favorite presentations because you bring us goodies.
Yes,
So
we
do
always bring
appreciate it.
goodies.
Thank you very
We always
much.
come here in goodies, that's for sure. As you know, Bob Burr, I'm the food service director for Leominster Public Schools. Here to give the year-end report to you all, celebrating our 12th year, finishing up our 12th year wellness partnership. With me tonight, obviously, Kerry is passing out, my assistant director, Kerry Bryan, is passing out more information about tonight's agenda. We also have Michelle Palladino and Chris Callahan, district manager, which he will be doing a part of this agenda towards the end. Before I get started, I'd just like to say a special thanks to a few people over the past 15 months that, going through this whole COVID thing with us has really helped us. Special thanks goes out, I remember on March 13th, I got a phone call from Superintendent Deacon saying, Bob, it was a Friday night, and she said, well, you have to do A, B, and C on Monday, what do you think? I said, sure can. And she said, what do you need from me? I said, how about EFD? So she said, it'll be ready for you on Monday. So everything was, and her and Jenny Mundy really helped us get started, getting principals involved, getting teachers involved, getting themselves involved for the first couple weeks until we transitioned to our staff, which is extremely helpful to support the Leominster community. So thank you to Paula and Jenny for that. Also like to thank, like I said, the principals have been nothing but outstanding to us and for us, the assistant principals and the principals at every single school. I can't thank them enough. It's a true partnership with them. Constantly asking, what do you need? What do we need to do? Just working with us and accomplishing the one goal we have is feeding our children. So thanks to all the principals and of course all the teachers as well. Also, a big shout out to emergency management, Jim LeBlanc and his crew volunteers have been passing out meals, and we're gonna go over the count of meals, what they've done to distribute those meals for us as well. And thanks to the mayor's office also for connecting us with emergency management, and so we can develop that relationship and move forward. And Val Brennan has done an awesome job as the team leader over at emergency management as well. Also, like the last shout out would be to our staff. Our staff has just done a phenomenal job over this past 15 months, really stepping up and just constantly working, taking days, using the days off and into work, and just nonstop and just helping the community and really developing relationships. Watching the grab and go curbside pickups, the relationship has started with the community and us, and they know each other's names. They come up, they laugh, they joke, and they move on. But it's been great to have that relationship with our staff and the community. All right, on tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about some program grants, some investments, talk about the pandemic meals and service, financials, of course, the challenges we got for next year, and Chris is going to talk about some cafeteria refreshing and our new environment themes. Program grants and investments. We had quite a few, and we still have a few more out there, some grants for this upcoming year. As you can see, we have 5 big ones there, and they total of $72,850. Of course, the biggest one is the Coronavirus Relief Fund School for the Reopening Grant, which was over $60,000 we received from the state. So that was a huge help to get a lot of things that we needed. And I also want to just throw in there that Chartwell's, we donated a $1,000 scholarship to the CTE as well this year. But as you can see, these grants, they all add up. But like I said, we still have a few more out there. And hopefully we can get those to invest back into our department. The next page is investments. This is what we use that money for thus far. We invested some money in coolers for the high school, forward air coolers. We had to invest a lot of thermal bags so we could deliver to the classrooms in each school to keep food hot and warm at the same time. We also had to get heating cabinets for some of the schools, so we're actually serving at a few of the schools. We're serving at 2 different locations. We're serving in a gym and we're serving in the cafeteria. So we needed those heating units for the gym area to keep the food nice and hot for our students. We also changed over, so it was a big project that needed to be done for years now since I've been here. The high school, we have 3 of the, we have a freezer and 2 refrigerator units that had a water cooling system, and it had to be changed over to an air cooling system. At the high school, Butch did a great job on getting all that information, getting it to Melanie and I approving it, or Melanie, I should say, approving it, to get that work done. And that's going to save us a lot of money in the future, with energy and the waste of the water that we have been doing for many years. So we'll be saving multiple dollars on that, which is great. Of course, we had to get some protective equipment, plexiglass, things district-wide that we needed. We needed utility carts, canopies for the summer, for, when we were out handing out these meals on the curbside to keep our employees a little cooler, under that canopy. We also had to purchase multiple hardcover thermal coolers and ice packs as well. So that was a big expense. And of course, we have to protect our employees and use that personal protective equipment along with mask, gloves, hand sanitizer, etc. Before I get to this slide here, I did a little work today because I wanted to get the most accurate numbers. We're actually divided up the amount of meals we served since the pandemic, March 16th of last year. There are 3 areas. We have a home delivery, we have a grab and go, which is curbside, which is right now it's currently out of the high school and Skyview Middle School, and we have an in-house amount of meals. The home delivery has delivered 203,000 meals to our students in Leominster since this pandemic started. So they hand-delivered 203,000 meals. Our grab-and-go curbside pickup is currently, like I said, at the high school in Skyview, has passed out 538,000 meals. And last in-house hybrid, we served 238,000 meals. And we're currently at 980,000 meals, which, we hope to hit the million mark, hopefully this Friday or definitely Monday. We're going to hit the million mark. So I thought those were some kind of fun numbers to throw out there, and it's just quite an accomplishment from all the people involved. We're going to move on to the slide above, the end of the year financials. We had a really healthy year this year financially, with all this grant money. And the biggest thing is the reimbursements actually increased this year, which close to, I think it was 90 cents per day for the meals. Yeah, 90 cents. So with that increase, really gave us a healthy balance in our revolving account this year. So, just flying down the list, it, goes over the cash sales, the federal and state reimbursement lines. Like I said, that's our biggest, revenue that we have. And then our expenses below, the product costs. The national volume allowance is a rebate we get, Chartwell's, for the amount of purchases that we make each year, company-wide. And it's about 17% of our food costs, so it's a great number to have. And then, it goes right to our net product costs right below that, and that's our final cost. And you move on to labor, direct expense, administration expense, and management fee, and the total expense line, and then the return to the food service program. We have an estimate in the April. I did not be able to finish May quite yet, but it will be tomorrow, unfortunately. But this is the end of May, and the next column is, end of April, and the next column is year-to-date, and that's an estimate. And that's a pretty confident estimate that I have that we are returning to Leominster Public Schools this year. And that's not including the beginning balance that we had going into this year. So, working with Melanie on this, we're going to have a very, very healthy balance moving into this upcoming year. So with that said, the upcoming challenges. The first one is going to be spending down this revolving account because we can have no more than 3 months of operating expenses in our account. So we are going to have not only 3 months, we're probably going to have about 5 to 6 months of operating expenses. So working with Melanie on this, we're going to develop a plan, and Chris Callahan as well, to try to reduce that and get that down to a 3-month operating expense. Because if we carry that balance for a continued period, our friends from the state will step in and possibly withdraw some of that money. So we do have to spend down. So I guess that's a good problem to have.
Basically, it has to be spent down within the program.
Yes, it can only be spent down within the program. So we have to invest back into the program only. With that, some other upcoming challenges, as we all know, employee labor. We're having a hard time getting labor. As you can see driving around town, seeing help wanted signs everywhere. We have been working with Melanie and getting a little creative to try to get some employees in. And, with Paula's approval, we did a few things. So we went from 20% short staff down to 10%. So they're slowly trickling in, and hopefully by the start of this upcoming year, we'll be at full staff. So we're excited about that. We are trending in the right way. And obviously, the last thing for a challenge for the upcoming year is anticipation of more participation. So I'm not sure if you all know, but we do have free meals. USDA has free meals all next year to all students in Massachusetts. So through June 30th of 2022, all the children will have a breakfast and lunch for free. One breakfast, one lunch for free. So that's going to be challenging on, especially at the secondary level where they're not used to getting that free meal, where at the elementary level, they got it with the CEP program. But our numbers will increase. We've been doing about 50 to 60% at the levels of the secondary school. We're expected to go up to 75 to 80, possibly 85. So that's going to be a challenge for us, to get these kids in line, to serve them as fast as we can, because they only have 22 minutes to eat. So that's going to be a huge challenge for us. And Chris is actually going to take over this part of the agenda and talk about the environments and depression. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. So Bob had mentioned that, again, we have some money to spend down to reinvest in the program. And Travel just came out with these new themes, new environment themes, really gives the cafeterias a refresh. Makes it more exciting for the students and enhances the environment. So timing was perfect, so I thought we'd just bring it to your attention. Maybe we can actually roll the video and just do a little bit of a, go back.
Just ask Kyle.
Kyle?
Kyle,
Just click on the link there. You have internet access up there. There we go. Is there sound, Kyle?
It's like,
Push play. Just hit the play button.
All right, Chris, press the play.
Yay. You have in front of you a couple of samples. That's a resource book guide for our directors to roll out the programs.
Is there no other equipment that we would need? I mean, is this?
Yes, there's actually, in some of the locations, we're looking at maybe at a serving line in Skyview. We're looking at seating at the high school, which give you actually more of a college feel, some lighting, some accoutrements from the ceiling, just to make it inviting. So the biggest equipment, we've done a lot of investing in serving lines through the last 5-10 years. So I think the high school seating area is important to create a space where students can gather, they can study, they can eat casually rather than sitting in a round circle seat. So it's and we've done a few of these and they've come out really, really nicely. So it's a combination. There's 3 themes. There's actually a market, which is more of a deli theme. There is a pop art theme, and this is the modern theme. So we'll work closely with the principals on each school to figure out what suits their environment best. Again, I think your cafeterias and your seating areas need some upgrades. And where we need equipment in the kitchens and the serving area, Bob will identify that as well with Melanie, and we'll go through the process.
So how much do you have to spend?
Right now, I believe it's we're looking at maybe 500,000 or 600,000. Yeah. So, and the seating alone, seating is expensive, but I think that, again, soliciting good points for that will be fun. I wish you could hear it, but you do have, there's actually a book up there with the guides as well, posted. Again, we'll work through the principles and, yeah.
I love that.
That's the Market Deli, so that's one Bob liked as well, so.
Does he want to make sure that everything is washable? It looked like in one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, again, if you look at the seating, that's more of I think the seating we're looking at are maybe a combination of tall and short tables, maybe some booth seating or some wall stand-up seating as well, or so it gives you a little bit of a change instead of just the flat institutional long tables. So.
Any sort of market research or anything that shows that students will eat healthier or less waste, any of that?
I think it's more, we've done market studies on the value of students being in a space that they want to be in. So, the cafeteria, it can be used as multiple spaces. So, eating is important, and also utilizing it for other needs, studying, classroom space, whatever. It's just
I know that when we did the changeover, we were, during the Obama administration, we were pushing more for healthier foods.
Sure.
But we really never knew if they were eating the healthier foods and it was ending up in the basket somewhere to be sent off to the pig farm. So I don't know. I mean, it's healthier food that you're putting.
I think there's a combination, and I've seen it since 10, 15 years ago. It's growth. So students, it's like a habit. It takes them a while to learn. So if they start learning at a young age, they're going to carry those habits as they get older as well. So we've seen a huge increase in the popularity of more fresh fruits and vegetables, and you get unlimited. So
Smoothies and those.
Smoothies, we actually taste tested. We've done samples with students, with our dietitian, getting the students engaged in that. Actually, students having sampling foods with their own peers. So it's worked out really well. Michelle Palladino and Bob and Carrie done a great job with student engagement, because that's
Sounds
a
like
huge
a
part of
wonderful
it too.
plan.
Yeah.
It is. It is. You guys are a great team. Yeah.
So again, we'll get more into it as we actually solicit quotes for each school. We may target 2 or 3 schools to start, and then we'd like to get more of it done throughout the year. So.
Can you use any of the money for the CTEI at Appleseeds? Or does it have to be used on your program?
It has to be only inside.
In that school lunch program. If they utilize the program, then it can be used for them. So.
Is there anything that can be done for kind of space movement? 22 minutes, as we all know, is not a lot of time, especially with young kids. Is there anything that can do to make it 4 lines instead of 2 at some of the elementary schools, and kind of redesigning that space and movement?
That's a great point. When we started, there were 2 lines, and now we have 6 at the high school. So it's a huge piece. But now, with meals being free for a year, it's going to be even more need to actually make sure there's more points of service. So we'll be looking at that as well. Skyview, perfect example, very outdated serving line there. So a very big school. So we'll need to take a look at that as well. So we're looking at that.
I just want to address that question as well, that every school, we get, every lunch, probably start to finish about 9 to 11 minutes. And that's where we want to be at. When we first started here, 16, 17 minutes, and the kids only had 5 minutes each. Eventually, it gets down to a system. It gets down to the kids coming in, putting their IDs in, and now we're down to about 9 minutes per lunch. But we are going to be adding more kids to these lunches, so our goal is to try to get them still 9 minutes, so at least or less, so we have 12 minutes. That's the last child coming through.
And there'll still be a combination, especially at the secondary level, of grab-and-go meals. We're still going to be packaging some for safety, not as stringent as we have been the last year, but again, with safety in mind, that's important as well, to make sure there's variety there, but it's all packaged safely.
And one other thing is, I feel the principal's eyes burning in the back of my head because that's all red in there.
Oh, yeah.
It will be blue. It will be blue.
I did put a blue.
I promise you, it will be blue.
There's a blue in front. So these are 2 schools we have done. If you see it, there's tall tables, we're in between columns, and and there's actually shorter tables. So it breaks it up a little bit, and it makes the environment a little nicer. So, yeah, it's more of a college feel. So, with that said, thank you.
Thank you. You guys have been tremendous.
You mentioned that
Can't hear you, Mike.
the maximum carry is
Just louder.
you said 3 months operating expenses
Yes.
is the maximum. How much is that?
That's about 225,000 a month, so it's about 675 that we,
About 675.
for a balance. So anything over that, we start to look at, and they say, how are you gonna spend it down? You need to spend it down, that's why I work with Melanie, to start working on this, and we'll come up with a healthier actual number soon, too. As we get closer.
It's a great problem to have. Since we started, it was the opposite. So we really turned the page there. I'd love to have this, not so much a problem, but we actually have solutions to that. It's an easier problem to deal with.
I do want to I had a look through the book and interesting things there. I know my daughter, who's not in the high school anymore, she's graduated, but she probably would have appreciated the comments on page 30. And I think the last thing I want to say is, to me personally, it's crazy that we're trying to squeeze lunch into 22 minutes. And I know I'm opening up a can of worms, perhaps, but we ought to seriously consider if there isn't some way to make lunch 30 minutes instead of 22. There's probably teachers who want to kill me right now. Like,
Talk about that one later, Michael.
but
I don't know, I see students eating, it takes them like 5 seconds.
when I was on the
One big inhale.
When I was on the Johnny Appleseed School Improvement Committee, the number one complaint I heard from the elementary school kids and their parents was that they didn't have enough time to eat lunch.
By the time they got to the end of the
By
line.
the time they got to their table, it was time to go. And obviously, we've added lines and improved your end of that, but it's still really short. Like, they need some time to eat, and some time to socialize, and some time to decompress. I feel like our students would be better all day long. They had, say, 30 minutes instead of 22 to squeeze lunch into.
Maybe we can sneak it into 25 a little. I was wondering if you have sort of reached out maybe to the parent population for employees, because maybe something like that, school hours, you got vacations at the same time as your kids might be, already workforce.
We posted on Facebook, we went through, Facebook.
Superintendent puts out an email every Sunday.
Maybe
It goes to all the parents, just put it on there.
Okay. Anything helps, whatever you can.
Yeah,
whatever you can
just
do.
because that might appeal to somebody who, wants to work but wants to be
Put a
home
little-
whenever their kids are home.
Little sign out in front of each school as the parents are pulling out, you never know, right?
Great idea.
It's really now it's an industry challenge.
Sweet blueberry.
So
They look good.
But we do have some fruit over there, Dean.
You do?
Yes, that they
You
bought.
guys are all right. Been eating all day.
Great. Anybody else?
Thank you.
before we-
And by the way, they were given an award at the emergency management banquet for their work. The whole staff came. I think you had 3 tables there. They were given an award for their work in helping to prepare for hundreds of thousands of lunches that went out. So the award winning.
So Bob had mentioned we're close to $1 million. As a company, we're actually close to $300 million.
Wow.
So,
Great. Amazing.
Anybody want water?
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So at this time, I see that our attorney, Mark Terry, has joined us. And for our vote earlier, I need a motion to go into executive session. When we do that, we need to clear the auditorium. And we will be returning after our executive session to continue our meeting. I have no idea. Do we have a room, superintendent or Principal Dusbinsky, do we have a room that we could possibly leave and everybody else can stay to meet in?
Just meet right over here, in the hallway.
Probably the cafeteria has seats, the gym might not have things down.
Eileen, we'll just be right outside this door.
Okay, so could I have
Eileen.
someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we enter into executive session under Chapter 39 of Massachusetts General Laws to discuss contract negotiations with Unit B, non-contract employees in the business manager position, and we will be returning.
Thank you. This is going to be a voice vote. Ron?
Yay.
Melissa? Yay. Brandon?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Dean?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Sue? Yay. Isabel?
Yay.
And I'll be a yay. Alrighty, so, back to the agenda. We have, portrait of a graduate, and we'll get to our votes and action items. But people have been waiting.
Michelle?
Thank you for waiting, we appreciate it.
Hi, good evening. I'm Michelle Oliveri, and I'm presenting on the Leominster Portrait of the Graduate this evening. So, Kyle's up in the booth for me. Leominster is part of the Portrait of the Graduate. So we call it also the BARD grant, which is a grant awarded to Leominster and some other communities. I just wanted to recognize the members of the Portrait of the Graduate team. Paula Giaquito, who is here tonight with me, was the coordinator as well. Shelley Saban was our alumni outreach member. Tim Smith is our media coach. Toby Mazzaferro, Doug Strofat, Emily Broussard, and Brandon Robbins also helped out on this as well. So as you can see, we have a very diverse representative of Leominster High School, CTEI, LCE, and community members. So a lot of people were a part of this Portrait of the Graduate grant. A nice representation here. So Portrait of the Graduate represents North Central Massachusetts. Leominster, Fitchburg, Gardner, Winchendon, and Mount Wachusett Community College are all part of this. Originally, it was supposed to just be a one-year process, but obviously with COVID, that kind of developed into a 2-year process, as you can imagine. And the whole part of this, the reason for this was to develop the graduates' readiness and skills for college and career. So we wanted to identify whether or not our graduates at Leominster High School, CTEI, LCE are really ready for workforce, college, careers in the world. And we're preparing them for that. We're making sure they have the necessary skills to be ready, and the Portrait of the Graduate is helping us to identify whether or not we're doing that. So in order to really figure out if we're doing this, we did a lot of alumni surveys. So we, 257 alumni participated in surveys, so I want to really make sure I'm giving recognition to our teachers and our staff who helped to outreach alumni and make sure they participated in the surveys. Great representation from our alumni. 900 current students participated in these surveys, and we had 151 teachers and staff, and we conducted focus groups and had 168 participants join those focus groups to answer survey questions about how they felt Leominster High School, CTEI, and LCE has prepared them, and whether or not the education they're getting is focusing on their needs, what they would like to change, what we could do to improve, and a whole bunch of other different questions relating to the educational programs here at Leominster.
Can I just ask a question about the alumni? How far back did you go? Because 257 sounds very little.
Right. Our original plan was to just go 5 years out. We did have some students up to maybe probably about like 8 years who wanted to participate. I will tell you that we have a lot of adults in the building who are also former graduates of Leominster High School, and they participated in the surveys as well. So really we have probably about like 20 and 30 years out as well, if you count them. But our original alumni survey was only supposed to focus on about 5 years out. So that was the original plan. This is the current visual that the Portrait of the Graduate has come up with, and it's focusing on these big 6 words: adapt, thrive, aspire, connect, contribute, and explore. And again, this is in collaboration with Fitchburg, Winchendon, Gardner, and Mount Wachusett Community College to really develop what we want students across North Central Massachusetts to, kind of what our graduates are going to look like after they come out of high school. Tyler, if you don't mind going to the next slide here. There's 2 slides that kind of go with this, but we want our students to really be like active citizens, creative thinkers, problem solvers. Tyler, you want to go to the next one as well. Responsible, self-aware, and change makers. So I don't want to read these to you, but I think a big one here is something that came up with our focus groups, is to be like financially literate. That came up over and over and over again. Whether or not students are able to balance a checkbook, apply to colleges, understanding what they're signing up for loans. This is something that we just keep on hearing over and over again. Life skills, change a tire, how to prepare a meal, just other things. So when we look at this, this is stuff that we got from our surveys as well. And how do we build this into our curriculum here at the schools? And how do we make sure that we're developing programs that are really going to involve the interests of our students? So developing more internships, developing more volunteer programs, and more career readiness for our students. So I just wanted, very proud of like our alumni and our faculty and our students for being involved in that as well. We already have changed a lot of things not a lot of things, but started to make the changes to our curriculum for next year. So I just wanted to kind of mention some of those. And I know Dr. Brzezinski had spoke to the school committee before about some of those changes. So some example of different course offerings, social justice in literature, emotional self, play and playwright is being written into our curriculum for next year. Curriculum through poetry. It's a big focus on financial literacy as a result of this grant. And more internships and job shadowing career opportunities for our students as well as a result of this. This summer, we're also offering a Skills for Summer Success workshop that's going to be offered on June 17th and June 19th. This is going to help students prepare for dual enrollment classes, pre-AP class, so a student who's never taken an AP class before, or maybe is going to take honors class for the first time, helps to develop some study skills. So this has been kind of as a result. CTE has kind of picked up on the financial literacy as well, and maybe looking at if we were going to offer another shop, what would the next shop be? We're talking about maybe like a business class or a business shop at the next one. So we're taking this data and we're trying to make informed decisions on what we can offer our graduates coming out of Leominster.
Does anybody have any questions?
So do you do analysis from the businesses as to what skills, I understand, and we used to have this program where all the credit unions used to do this whole literacy. I don't know whatever happened to that. I haven't heard about it in years, but do we know what what skills the businesses need?
We have members from like Mass Hire and
Right.
the North Central Workforce who are part of this as well.
Right.
So they're offering what businesses are looking for. We have different businesses who are community members who are part of this as well. So they're giving us information of what they're looking for students coming out of high school and even hiring students, just part-time jobs as well.
So can we get that? I mean, that goes in sync with this,
It
right?
does.
This is what students want. And I think we need to make sure that with students that we're putting into the workforce have the skills necessary that the businesses
So this
require.
is all these skills that are listed. If Kyle, if you want to go back already, I'm sorry, go back a couple. These two slides right here, this is what businesses want as well. This has all come out of those surveys as well. Businesses want active citizen, problem solvers, creative thinkers, and then the next one to be self-aware and change makers. So they were all part of the surveys as well.
Okay. So Mass Hire can get us that information.
So they were part of it. Yeah, Mass Hire.
So
yeah,
can you ask Mass Hire to get us a copy of?
Sure.
their-
Yep.
And then it all makes sense, to me at least, to see that.
Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you very much. This is very innovative.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Michelle signed on for a one-year stint and it turned into two. So it really became
We're not done yet.
No, I know.
And then I think it's important that we schedule this for another 6 months ahead so that we can look at what changes have been made and how it's all going, so we don't wait another year or two to find out.
Yeah, it's.
We never hear about it again.
All right, update on school choice? Way ahead of me, thank you.
So I'm just here to let you know that we've started to review the school choice applications. Right now, we have a total of 65. We have 25 from outside of Leominster and 40 within Leominster. It's a rolling admissions. It's tricky any year, but It's exceptionally tricky this year just because of all of the moving parts. So we did just review our first batch, and then our next second wave we'll look at probably in August, just to hopefully see that things have settled down a little bit and it will be easier to move kids around if possible. We try to accommodate every family's need as much as possible, as much as we can, but it's really just based upon class size and the numbers.
We sent a survey out this morning.
That's the other piece of it. So we had, we sent a survey out to all of the remote learning families to let us know what their plans are for the fall, so we can have a better idea of where they're going to be, and then determine class size as well.
But is that survey in regards to possibly creating that virtual academy, or was it, separate from that?
It would be separate. At this time, I'm not aware of it.
Yes, so right now, the survey is to determine how many students want to come back in, so that we know if we have room for school choice. You know, we don't want to promise families if our class sizes are full. We are being contacted by families about some type of virtual schooling. So we're working with the state right now to see what our options are. We had a webinar on Friday where we were in talks with them again today. There's different options depending on how many students want it. So we're at the table and we're all talking about it because we do have some medically fragile students that really prosper in the remote setting and would like to continue at least until they can get vaccinated. So we're working with all those individual families as well.
So how are we going to vote on school choice?
We've already voted for school
on it.
choice.
Yep.
And this is just a report on whether, where we're at with school choice, and so right now they're trying to determine class size before they allow people from outside in.
How
Which
long
is
is that
what we
going to
do all the
take?
time.
How many people are going to wait for some sort of an answer, right?
So we're going through our first batch now, and that batch of people will know before the end of June. That's typically how I try to do it anyway.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
If it goes much longer, then it's not fairly relevant to the who might want to know if they can get. How many from up 25 from the outside?
Yeah.
And where are they coming from, do you know, offhand?
Yeah, Fitchburg, Lunenburg, around here.
The grades.
I
Most of
didn't
the
hear you.
kindergartners spread all
Grades.
over.
So we have about 30, the kindergarten is the biggest, about 30. But that's 13 are from outside of Leominster. And typically, we like to try to get the students from kindergarten so they're with us throughout. We have about 23 grades 1 through 5, and then 11 for the middle school and high school.
But we should have 11.
Outside numbers, there were 7 grades 1 through 5, and 5 for the middle school and high school. It's
We
really,
should,
kindergarten is really what,
Within the system. No way.
Does that include, say, a child who lives in Leominster and then moves to Fitchburg and then stay in Leominster, or?
yeah.
In district ones are just people who are requesting to be in a different school, which is their district.
But part of our guidelines is that we don't accept students outside of Leominster before we're able to accommodate those within, so it's tricky.
So have we already let them know that we can accommodate them?
We are by the end of June,
The intra?
both intra and inter. That's my goal, at least for this first batch, because we always get more throughout the summer.
Because what could happen is one child already is intra-school closed out. I thought at one time our policy was that once the student's in, then the next, if they have 2 or 3 kids, then they can also go, but apparently that's not the case. So they're bringing one kid to one school and one to the other.
Once you're in for
For that child. But I think the misunderstanding is that people think once the one kid's in, then the rest of the
Families in.
Right. That's each individual.
each individual, because it depends
So
on
I
that
can
grade.
certainly, as a parent, can see the reason why you'd want all your kids to do the same thing.
Right.
Right.
So then, policy doesn't allow that, it's whatever we have room.
So we don't have to vote come June, at the end of
No.
June?
No, we already voted.
for it.
We've already
We don't
voted
have
for
to
school
vote.
choice,
So
it's
it's up
just,
to the numbers.
it's up to the numbers.
We voted to approve the guidelines that she's working under, she's just
Right.
letting us know
There
how
it
it's
is.
going.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is update on alumni field.
Alumni fields. So everything is ready to go. Now they will go to the, just the landscaping plans coming in. Everything's ready to go for permitting, boards and commissions, planning board. I don't know if they've been to the conservation, and then out to bid, final documents, and then out to bid.
How long do you think that process is going to take before they, like, settle on something?
Permitting shouldn't be very long. We have a department of we have a, what we call a development review project. That's all the different departments, plus all the people in licensing or permitting. So once that gets done, it's pretty much reporting back to the board saying, yeah, we've looked at it, conservation and agent, everybody's looked at it. And that kind of gets, the rest of it is just procedural. So I can't even tell, we've all looked at this.
Like I was going to say for years.
Shouldn't be a problem. And then final bid documents, estimating, and then final bid documents. And we have the new comptroller and I've been going over the proposed comptroller, been going over the number, the schedule of the payment plan and everything. So we should be ready to go by fall.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Long awaited. So I think you started this conversation 20 years ago, Dean.
It's probably the most difficult site in Leominster, but it is next to the school. It is something, value added to having it next door. That,
right. No transportation and
for a lot of
everything
kids, they just, they don't make it down there. They just vanish in the school.
Yeah.
I can see why. So it will be well worth it at the end. It is the wettest site with most of my issues, but we've been through.
Okay, great, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions about alumni field? And it is going to include everything, right, like lights and the concession stand?
Everything that was agreed on. Yep.
Perfect. All right, so next we have the superintendent's evaluation. It's that time of year that we need to evaluate the superintendent. She did provide us with some information. It's obviously been an unusual year, and certainly some of the benchmarks that we typically rate her by have not been in existence or happening this year based on the pandemic. We do need to typically, and we can, I don't know if anybody else is interested, but typically it's Isabel, Sue, and I, but I don't know if anybody else wants to be sort of on the evaluation committee. And Chris, can you send out that evaluation to the committee? And if folks can please fill it out and return it as soon as possible, because ideally we need to hopefully do it by the end of the fiscal year. So it would be nice if we could report back in our next meeting. So if you could put that also on the agenda, Chris, and that, we would be reporting back the findings during our regular open meeting. So does anybody else want to join? I'm presuming Isabel and Sue, you still want to do it?
You want to break this,
Joe? So I think we're all set there. But really prompt things back would be awesome. Business manager position, superintendent, can you, I know we've got what was posted in here.
Sure.
Can you give us an update on that situation?
Sure, we've had this posted on and off for about 16 months, and currently we have an internal and an external candidate. So what I have provided you with is just the posting that has been used traditionally with a job description and title if you want to formulate a committee.
Can you tell us where it was actually posted, like, do you know where it was posted?
Oh, School Spring, yes.
That's
on
what we
School
thought, but
Spring.
we wanted to confirm that.
Yes, so that was on School Spring. So it's still unfilled at this time. Everything's, we say pre-pandemic. You would when we first posted it, we had started to talk about putting a committee together. And I believe Sue, I don't want to speak for you, but I know you were on it. And I think she was going to work on heading that committee. So you do have 2 candidates, so it's on you now.
Right, so this is the position that the school department, the school committee hires. And typically, I know what's happened in the past when we've had multiple, applicants, there was a committee, a subcommittee that kind of reviewed it, wheedled it down, and then they brought the person or persons in to be interviewed by the entire school committee. We have 2 potential candidates, so our real options are to repost. However, we've reposted 3 times, so just for people to think about that, to interview both candidates, or to make some other determination.
In the past, we've had Glenn Kuchar or somebody from the Mass Association of School Committees help us with the recruitment part, and then help us in the process of setting up interviews, and people have to fly in or whatever. We've used them in the past. I don't know why we wouldn't use them again.
Sue?
So one of my things was, I went through the job description, and that's pretty much a key piece that we, as a school committee, need to agree upon.
Right, I think this was going based on what we've agreed upon in the past.
And it's,
It's the existing.
okay, maybe it is. But there's certainly, you know, when you go through this, it says you invest the funds of the school district in accordance with state law and district. We don't, you know, there are certain things that we don't do. And they're talking about procurement. I know some business managers have procurement licenses. We don't expect that of our businessmen. You know, so there are things that I think that we should, because to be honest with you, that might be one of the reasons why you never got candidates, is because it's pretty, you know, scary, all the requests that are in here. So I don't know. And then, I don't know, it says here registered status as Mass School Business Administrator. Is that the same thing as a licensed business manager? Yes. Okay. I didn't know why it said that. Melanie, are you licensed? Yes. Okay. So I don't know.
So do you have to be licensed, or can you be given a certain amount of time to get a license?
Well, right, you can be given a certain, yeah, no, but you do have to be licensed.
Right, but it's, yeah, in the.
Yeah.
The external candidate licensed,
What?
is the external candidate currently licensed as a
No.
school business administrator?
No.
No. So actually, currently, we have one qualified candidate for the position who is licensed, and one unqualified candidate for the position.
Well, I haven't heard the
One
other.
qualified candidate for the position has done it for a year and has done it well and knows how to do it. And it seems to me a little crazy to turn this over to somebody else who doesn't know us and isn't licensed. So I don't know why we continue a process of looking elsewhere when we have a solution for it.
I think we owe it to the public, Mike. This is a public position, and for us to just, you know, take somebody and not go through an interview process, whether we have 1 candidate or 5 candidates, we owe it to the public to interview a person for this position.
Sure.
Sure, and we would still need to
So
interview.
I think the other thing is, right,
Even if we went with an internal candidate, we would still need to, you know, interview that person.
that's correct.
Yes,
That's correct. So I
Right, I'm
think
not
it's
disagreeing
doing
with
a
that.
disservice. Our job is to hire a business manager. We waited a year, we gave an interim position because at that time, we said it wasn't a good time to recruit a person in that position. That was the decision we made last year.
So I'm not in favor of interviewing unqualified people. We have one qualified candidate after 16 months of posting. I would move that we interview that candidate and proceed accordingly. I'm not
I guess
sure
I
what
was interested though in seeing what was out there.
Right, well, we've attempted to see
We
what's
haven't
out there,
been-
and the only thing we've got besides the.
Well,
is
were you
someone-
part of an interview? Were you part of
They
this?
haven't been interviewed. We
No,
have-
but there's been no interview,
No,
so we
but
would
I
have
mean,
to
you sound
interview.
like you know a lot more than anybody else.
I've just been asking about it whenever I'm in the building.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I guess again, I think it's gotta be open and honest.
Sure.
And it's a public position. So
Right.
whether, you know, and I was kind of shocked when I got this and saw it was posted on March 29th. We should have been involved in it or been made aware of it. So I guess the question on the table is, do we want to go out, re-advertise it, you know, knowing we have an internal candidate?
Well, I guess if it's been advertised 3 times and we only have the 2 candidates.
One spot.
I haven't seen it advertised.
Well,
I
do
mean,
you
we're
go on?
told it's advertised,
Do you
but
go
right,
on the
Well,
website?
I'm just saying, Eileen, this is our hire.
Yes.
And none of us have been involved in it, so that's my issue.
Eileen, I think what she's saying is, we used to have a different process. If you all want to do a different process, that's fine. We used to handle the process. We brought somebody in to help us, right? We knew where we were advertising. We were advertising in many different locations. We took the applications in. We didn't even have a subcommittee. We all, we narrowed it down. Then we all participated in the interview. And then we decided, when we picked it, this is a different process. And so I'm with Sue. This is a totally different process. We've advertised in one spot. Nothing against Melanie or anybody else, but, we advertise in one spot.
The one spot is the state mandated.
There you go. So we did the minimum.
All school positions are supposed to.
So we did the minimum.
Ron?
My position on all this is as follows. It's an old saying. You go with who you have helped, who has helped you. We've gone through a pandemic. We have a candidate, she's qualified, yet we're sitting here, it's chewing her, and we want to get someone else. Well, how does that, you talk about public, how does the public feel about that? We have someone helping us, we've had her for almost a year,
So it's
and she's doing fine, and all of a sudden,
that it's really, we are in
Position, not a
open, it's a position, not a person.
I didn't
Because
say
we
it
are-
was a person,
No,
I
I
didn't say
know,
it was a
but I'm
position.
just
It's
cautioning
just the way we're
everyone
talking.
that we cannot discuss any person, particularly in open
I
session.
didn't. Dean did, he's the one that brought it up, I'm just carrying on what he was saying.
No, I was talking about just the process, yes.
It's all about the process.
Advertising in one spot and saying that we've done a nationwide search for a candidate.
I just say, we go with what we have, with who we have,
All right, so.
and then we just move on.
Right, so your position is noted, Ron. Does anybody else down at this end have anything that they would like to add, Melissa or Brandon?
So to clarify, what was the process for the last business manager that was hired? Because it was, what, 3
All
years
other
ago?
hires that we've done, we've always enlisted the help of the Mass Association of Superintendents. So they would bring somebody in, usually it was Glenn,
I
for
don't
any
know that we
position.
have done that
Just
Just
only
for the superintendent,
We
not
haven't
the
done it.
business manager.
We did it for other business, I've been here when we did it for other businesses.
Right, but I've been through several business managers.
I've been part of a process with Sue where we brought in somebody to help us, almost like a headhunting thing where they went out and they took care of
So we've had
putting it up.
multiple different processes over a number of years. It's not a new process that we're doing right now. We've done it in the past.
Yeah, but we've always run the process. We, as a committee, have
Right,
done
so-
the whole process.
That's one of our roles.
Right, so the only,
Right,
so,
is hiring a business
'Cause we-
manager, a
Yes.
pupil personnel, and the
Superintendent.
superintendent.
Like, nobody asked me
That's
where
it.
we're gonna advertise. I never had that conversation with anybody.
Right, but
and I don't
I guess
ever
what I'm
remember
saying
being
is
asked
this
where
isn't
for
the first
advertising
time.
and
The
all
whole
of
If
that.
you school spring in the
No,
past.
I don't ever remember being
The
asked
time for
before.
the school committee to have input into the process was 16 months ago when we started the process. I mean, it seems.
We didn't start it.
We did start it. The
We deferred
position's
it
been
because we
posted.
hired an intern.
We have a candidate, we have 2 candidates, one licensed, one not. We have an open position in 3 weeks, needs to be filled one way or the other. We need to proceed with the process we have in place. If we don't like that process, we should do it differently next time. It's 16 months too late to change the process.
Well, we never had a meeting about this.
We did have a meeting.
No.
We made Melanie interim, and we said we would post for a full-time, which we have done.
Right, we didn't decide any posting. Apparently it was done that we're gonna post in one spot. Had I known we were gonna post in one spot, one place, for a position,
That's the
I mean,
place.
I don't
It's where
care, but I
all
think
school
we owe it
jobs
to the
are posted.
public to have a public interview, whatever we do.
Well, we
Have a
do,
Because all
public
this
interview.
has been done behind the
Absolutely.
scenes.
right, well,
I'm just saying,
regardless,
We should publicly interview all the qualified candidates.
we definitely need to interview
I'm
folks
fine with
as a-
setting up interviews for the 2 positions, for the 2 candidates who have applied for the position. We have a licensed and an unlicensed, they both applied, there's 2, not 30, let's set up the interviews.
Peter and then Isabel.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the points that are being made, and you know, in the future, definitely, you know, be more careful about how we proceed with it. But it's been up for a while, and it's been up on the state mandated site that most qualified candidates would know to be checking if they were looking for this position. And so I think it's appropriate at this time to move forward, considering how long it's been up there, and that we do want to have somebody before the next school year begins. So I'm all in favor for interviewing the two candidates that we currently have.
Isabel?
I didn't really have much to add, but what I will add is echoing Michael's sentiment of if there is a requirement for the candidate to be licensed, I don't think it merits our time interviewing the second candidate if they're not licensed, only if we know in the potential contract they have X amount of time to obtain that license, right? So I don't think it's specified in the job posting of how long to acquire the license. In that instance, I would say it would be beneficial to interview both candidates. If it is something that we request off the bat, then I think it's only in our best interest to interview the one. I just think that's a time saver there as well. And I don't want to waste the other candidate's time if that's not something we're looking for off the bat.
So why don't, as we have varying schools of thought here, do we have, we need to maybe make a motion on how people would like to proceed, and if someone makes a motion, then we can vote it and see where it lies.
I'll make a motion to open up the interviews for all candidates.
So are you talking about re-advertising, or are you talking about interviewing the two candidates we currently have? I just want to be really clear what I'm voting for. And with the
I would support opening it up.
so I would prefer you not to say opening it up, I would prefer to say
To
repost.
repost or whatever, and use different media to post or whatever, just to be able to say to the public we did our due diligence, that's it.
Can we do both at the same time? Can we interview the two candidates while there is a current job posting? Because I think what I've heard from a few folks is that we're trying to get a new business administrator before the start of the next fiscal year. So not speeding up the process, but if we can have both and appease both parties of thought, right? I think that might be the common ground.
I don't have a problem.
That's my concern as well, is like how much time are we going to repost it for? Are we gonna go another 16 months before we start interviewing people
Well,
again?
I don't know how long this was posted for, I mean, I see this says March 29th, like, when did you get the application? I can't answer that.
We've had you repost 3 times. This is a very difficult licensure. There is not a candidacy pool out there. But you want to post it again, that's fine.
So you're saying March 29th was the last time you
The
posted?
last time we posted.
You posted prior to that. Do you recall just in general the timeframes for the other postings?
So 16 months ago, it was up for about 6 months, and then we appointed Mel, and then we put it back up in November or December, bring it down for a few days, and then we repost it again so it's fresh.
But normally we reach out to Masco.
Well, she made a motion.
Yes, we don't have a second yet.
I'll make a second. But with Isabel's amendment that, Sue, you want to retract it and make, since you made the motion,
With the amendment that we
we
do
just
both.
do it simultaneously. I'll second
Okay.
that.
So the motion is, and I just want to be really clear because we had some concerns about our motions earlier, is that you made a motion to repost the position in other venues as well as School Spring or whatever. And simultaneously, we would interview the two current candidates. And we would give a 2-week turnaround for the posting for people to apply.
They can just send an intent, it's a letter of intent to say it. And then you better make some changes in here, because obviously you have things in there that a candidate might not. If you narrow the job description too much, you exclude people who might look and say, I don't have any purchasing experience, I'm the business manager.
Right.
Yeah,
And I mean, these are obviously, was our last job description that we had Which as a committee. These are our last job descriptions.
Okay, well, we don't expect procurement and stuff, so.
I know, I'm just saying that was our last thing that the committee came up with. So if the committee wishes to change it, but that was what we have.
So
All right, so there's a motion, a second, any other,
Can you just clarify it one more time so we are sure? Because I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. So
So
Sue's
the motion
motion,
to repost the position simultaneous with.
in other venues.
Into other venues, and specifically Masco, which is their lead agency, and I personally know people that have resigned and are looking for jobs. So we'll exclude that. But anyway, so that's the motion, and then with the caveat that we would simultaneously interview the candidates that are currently out there.
And with the 2-week turnaround time for?
Yes.
2 weeks from the time the ad goes in.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
That's reasonable. And then if anybody has it, at least let us know, right? Send them a letter and something. If they don't, then that's their problem, right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, so this is going to be a vote,
Are we gonna have
anybody?
a discussion before we vote?
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm just gonna state my position, which is that anybody in Masco would know to look in School Spring because it is where all of these positions are posted. We have a business administrator on staff through June 30th, and we have a 2-week posting. We should interview the qualified candidates and make a decision. I don't see any point in posting unless that doesn't work out. This is an enormously complicated job to get everything straight. It takes learning on the job for over a year to be good at. Switching to someone not familiar with our situation, I think is, well, it would depend on the candidate, I suppose. But in any case, I'm not in favor of reposting.
Wait,
Any other
can I just
discussion?
clarify? Yeah, can I clarify what you just said? So you're saying that our current business manager's contract expires on June 30th?
We gave our current business administrator
So-
an interim contract that's through June 30th of this year.
So I'm struggling with this being on an agenda 2 weeks before the end of the contract year. I mean, that could be very deliberate. I mean, that's really not appropriate. We should have been out 2 months ago looking for a business manager,
We were
not,
looking for a business manager 2 months ago. We had one
well,
candidate.
okay, Mike, you
Been
say that.
posted.
It's been posted. We have one.
Please.
I don't
So-
know what part
so,
of this isn't clear.
At this point, we have a motion and a second. If anybody who has not spoken yet wants to speak for discussion. All right, let's do a vote. All those in favor of the motion? Got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got Isabel, Sue, Jean, Brandon. I can't see Melissa, I'm sorry. And Ron?
Nay.
There was 3?
4. Brandon,
Dean.
Dean,
Sue, and
Sue, and Isabel.
Okay, I got it.
And the motion doesn't have carried.
So I'd like to make a motion that we interview the candidates and proceed according
I'll second that.
to our normal procedure with the applicants.
Any discussion?
Yes, I do. So what happens, I'm gonna stick to this. Okay, June 30th, the current contract ends. What's gonna happen? We have less than 2 weeks. This is shameful that we're going through this
Absolutely.
2 weeks before a contract expires. That's just crazy. That is shameful to the taxpayers. It's an embarrassment. We sat on this, and then it comes up, and to be honest with you, Michael, you might have known things going on behind the scenes. I called Eileen Griffin
Point of
2
order.
weeks ago
Point of
and
order.
asked her, excuse me.
Point of order.
What's the point of order?
All right,
What?
Ron, we're still,
What's the point of order?
Michael went behind the scenes.
okay,
Excuse me.
Ron, we're
She's
going.
making a statement.
I called Eileen 2 weeks ago as a preview to the agenda of this meeting, okay? I brought up
that we have not gone out on a business manager job. That's the only reason that's on this agenda. Because I was shocked that it wasn't on the agenda.
I had
So
asked
the
for it to
fact
be
that-
on the agenda,
Right.
and on the agenda from the week before, the meeting
Okay,
before.
but my only point is, so we have a business manager in place now whose contract ends June 30th, and here we are, June 7th, 8th, whatever date we are, and now we're looking for, to fill, that, that says it all.
Right, and that's what the public thinks. They
Yep.
think, wow,
That's
this is all
exactly what it
convenient. This is amazing. Nationwide search, 2 weeks are up.
Yep.
Already got somebody to put, wow, what a coincidence. Amazing.
And this has
An amazing task, and we knew nothing about it, but you did.
This has
This is
nothing to
embarrassing.
do with
This
the
is
person.
Okay,
embarrassing.
so now we'll
It has
do
nothing
point
to
of
do
order.
with a person in the job either. This is the position. This is a public, whatever.
If I may, I just want to state again that this has been posted multiple times.
But you say that. I've never seen it posted, and we're part of that process.
And it began when our previous business manager left. That's how long it's been going on. It's just, we've kind of forgotten about it because this has been going on.
Right, so we had enough time to place an ad in more than one spot, right, Peter? But we didn't.
I'm not
But we
arguing,
didn't.
I'm not arguing.
So we waited
where
2
it
weeks
was-
before,
where it was
when the
put out.
contract's up. How
Okay.
convenient.
I'm
So-
not arguing
How
where it was put
convenient.
out. I'm
Yeah.
just saying it's been out there
Wonder
for a
why the
while,
public
and
is
it's been
sending
out
it.
on a
Okay, Dean,
place
and-
where people
hold
can't
on.
find it who are looking for this position. In the future, yes, we should do a better job. I'm not disagreeing with that.
I agree.
However, I'm just saying, right now it's making it look like this is all coming together in the last few days. This process has been ongoing. It's just no one has been applying.
I agree with you, we should do it different next time.
Yeah, no, and I think we all can concede that point.
This is not a last minute thing. This position has been posted for 16 months in the place where all such positions are posted. If there were candidates available, they know where to look. They could have applied. We have 2. I mean, I'm not sure what you would do differently as far as timing. We need to either interview the candidates we have and make a decision about hiring one full-time, or we need to somehow miraculously find more candidates in a very short period of time, or
offer
we need to
extend the
offer
interim
extension
contract.
of the interim contract.
Has anybody
to
done
cover
that?
time. Sorry?
Has anybody done that?
No, we were just talking about it right
That's
now.
up to us. We hire the business.
Right. It's not on the agenda.
The business manager is on the agenda.
Business manager.
Not an extension of the contract. If anybody wanted to come here and speak tonight about speaking on whether you extend the contract or not, they never had the opportunity to do that because it's not on the
Yeah,
agenda.
We'd have to negotiate that anyway.
Right, we would have to talk about that in executive session. Because we would have to negotiate that with that person as well. So at this point, there is a motion, a second. So all those in favor?
You already took it.
Or did we take a vote for that one? I thought we just, no, we just took. And so we have 2 nays by the looks. All right, so.
Can I just ask a question? So we have, what, 2 weeks to hire somebody? Is that, I mean, I guess that's the way it goes.
So, or the other option is we can put it on our executive session for next meeting and discuss an extension of the interim person, and then we could then make a decision about posting and et cetera at that point in time. Because if we're offering an extension to the interim position, we could then repost.
So why don't we get our schedules out in the next day or so, just to see if people can start going on vacation, so we can at least offer the,
Yes.
so we don't mess them up.
Right.
For another 6 months, because we can't, there's 10 of us have to line up, or 9 of us have to line up our schedules, so. I have mine if you want to do it now, or you want to do it later,
I don't have my appointment
All right.
with me.
but maybe soon, just so.
But yes, so Chris, if you can send out maybe a couple of dates.
Yeah.
And then everyone can respond.
Sure.
I'm available any day.
Okay.
All right. Next on our agenda, I'm sorry, I just lost my agenda, is approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second. Is there any errors, corrections, or omissions?
I believe there's an omission.
Okay.
The first motion in the middle of page 2 was the motion to approve the FY22 budget.
Yeah.
The last sentence quotes the mayor's statement, and then my response to the mayor's statement has been omitted. And since my response was that, in fact, we do vote a revised budget every year, it's part of our normal process. Once we know what our appropriation is and know what the actual state Chapter 70 is and know what our actual enrollment is, I just think it's important that it's reflected that what was requested is normal procedure.
Bless you. One more and you get the day off of pay tomorrow. Go for it.
Any other
No one's ever
omissions or
done it.
corrections?
Yeah, I have one minor one.
Sure.
So on page 2 also, underneath public hearings on the FY22 budget, and then looks like the second paragraph, it says the state has set aside 40 million, and I believe it should be saying to help districts that have. So it should,
Sorry, you should say what?
it should say to help districts that have, I believe is what the sentence is trying to say. Right now,
Because it says held districts. All right, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Subcommittee reports, Mike?
Yes, Finance Subcommittee met tonight at 6. All members were present. We reviewed warrants, which we need to approve. So I make a motion that we approve the following warrants. From the general fund, warrant 44, totaling $991,424.95. Warrant 45, totaling $2,575,573.20. Warrant 46, totaling $95,313.81. Warrant 47, totaling $5,935,731.56. Warrant 48, totaling $775,822.17. From grants and revolving, we have warrant 44, totaling $46,498.29. Warrant 45, totaling $609,365.90. Warrant 46, totaling $45,664.42. Warrant 47, totaling $413,987.03. Warrant 48, totaling $101,762.46. Finance Subcommittee has reviewed and approved these. Hopefully,
Do we have a second? All those, any comments? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries.
we did also, we were presented with some transfers between line items to just clean up the line items end of year processing. These were not things that require full school committee votes. Finance did approve them because they were over $10,000 between designates, so we would try to do that. But just the usual, we run out of money in this line, we've got extra in that line, shifting it around so things balance out.
Okay,
I believe that's all I have to report.
thank you. Ron, anything from policy?
Yeah, we had no meeting.
Okay, thank you. So action items, we need to vote on the bus contract.
So we have we got one bid from First Student. We've got the details in our packet. It's essentially just an extension of the same terms as the current contract. So I would make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I had requested a comparative, a cost comparative between our old contract and our current, and I didn't see that in our package. Is that something the administration can compare? We can do it. I had included both copies of last year's contract and this year's contract.
I was just looking for a high-level summary. Here's your transportation cost last year, here it is this year, 32 buses or whatever it is. You know, I did request that. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Conversation.
Sorry.
So, in speaking with the purchasing agent, he said we waited too long to put this together, and that's why you got one bid. You really have to start really early, because there are some things that you can take out of there that will make it more competitive. So in other words, where you locate the buses, things like that, that other bus companies even, so what he's saying is smaller bus companies could bid on this, but they can't bid it in this time frame. You need a lot more time. You'd have to start now for next year. If you were bidding this out next year, you'd have to start now. And he feels
That's important to know.
you'd get, we have certain conditions in here that nobody can meet because school starts and, our next contract is starting right away. They can't possibly ramp up and get drivers and buses and everything and get a place to put them.
And when, I know we started, I thought it was posted in, when, June?
It was first brought to the committee agenda in December.
So that's too late.
We should already have done it modified. So, for next time, Dean is absolutely right. We waited until it was time to put up the bid and then started talking about if we wanted to change it. And that's much too late in the game, and it caused the bid to be posted late. So if we want to review and change terms in the bid, we need to make sure that's on our agenda a good year before we want to post the bid, so we can get all that out of the way and have it posted on time. The good news is this is no worse than the previous contract. It's really just continues in terms, so the costs will be typical. Should look similar to what we've seen before.
All right. Any other discussion? Everyone in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We have the vote on the school calendar and the last day being a half a day.
We have two issues with the calendar. One of them, the LEA has requested to start before Labor Day on the 25th, which would change the last day to June 10th. That's a bit of a squeeze for the school department. We have MCAS testing usually the first week of June, like we're testing right now at the high school. And I think it would really be pushing the constraints on that and trying to chase children down the very last week of school. So my recommendation would be to hold the calendar where it's at currently.
And typically, we have always started the children returning the Wednesday before Labor Day. It's kind of my recollection.
So, I'm sorry, Paula, I must have missed something. So in the letter mentioned changing the day that teachers start.
Yeah.
It did not mention changing the first day of school for students.
So we have one day of just teachers. So students would then start early. Right.
Because they want to, I'm sorry, they
Or
want
they
to,
would start on the 30th.
So I'm supposed to read between the lines?
Right.
So when the LEA says teachers start on the 25th.
Right, and
they mean
students-
that students would start the 26th?
Yeah.
so that's a week ahead of time.
And then what's the problem with that? Is that's not enough time after?
So the
classes
last
again?
day of school would be June 10th. And the state sets the MCAS testing schedule, and the high school always has a science test on that last week, and it feels like it would be too much of a crunch to get it done and make sure that every child has an opportunity. So the way the calendar's set up right now really works well. Is there a reasoning for this?
All right, what is their reason?
They were worried that the state, it looks like, will not let us do remote snow days next year. So we have even now with 5 built-in days, we're on the 22nd. That still gives us then another week. I don't know if I've ever called 10 snow days in a year.
Yeah, the only time we ran into problem was the ice storm that year.
Right, the ice storm probably is like that. Yeah.
That was it. All right, any discussion? And can I have someone willing to make a motion? To either change it or keep it the same.
Well, that is true, because we've already voted on it.
We've already voted on the current calendar. We'd only need a motion to change it.
Right, does anybody wish to change it? And if so, make a motion.
Paula, do you have any sense that there would be a point to negotiating something about this? Or you just think that this is going to cause too much trouble to MCAS and
I really
leaving the
think-
calendar we
I
voted?
believe it's the state calendar that's tying our hands. They set their schedule. We have to do it on certain days, so we don't want to run out of time.
Okay, I see no one wanting to make a motion to change. All right, so we'll move on. The second issue,
Last day of school.
would someone like to make a motion for the last day of school?
Motion, whatever it is they want to take for the last day of school is fine with me.
All right, motion for a second. Any conversations? All those in favor? Last day of school is a half day.
Make a motion that we declare surplus equipment and offer it first to the recreation department and anybody else, nonprofits that might be out there. And then if not, we either sell it or dispose of it for the same set playground.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. We have a couple other action items coming out of executive session. Alyssa, would you like to make the first motion?
Before we get to that, on the new business, can we set the agenda? I mean, we have things coming before the whole committee. We have a finance subcommittee, yet we have things on our agenda. What's happening is the things that we need to be discussing are somewhat diluted with time because we've got so much on the agenda. So is there any way to limit what gets on the agenda so that
I think because we had the last two meetings were just budgetary, we got jammed.
every meeting, and we have, I'd rather have a full meeting of finance, where I have a better understanding of what's going on in finance. I'd rather do that. A lot of school committees do that. The whole entire committee, just like, you know, picking certain positions and stuff. I'd rather do that and have a whole the finance committee meeting, a committee of the whole, and then put some of these other things that are on the agenda and let those go to the subcommittee and they can report back during the meeting, which would take just a couple of minutes. That would minimize things that are on the agenda, allow us to talk about the really important things. And not that anything else isn't, but these are really important things. We're spending, a fortune in here. And that's a subcommittee. So,
Well, that's something that we can,
well, we've already added a lot of things to next agenda.
I know, but this is a new thing that you're adding, so we would have to put it
Well,
on
I'm
the
asking
agenda
that
to
you
discuss.
limit what goes on the next agenda, so we don't get distracted from the core of what our
I think we
elected,
Just,
capacity.
this is a very big agenda.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because we haven't had, I mean, I think what we really probably need to do is during like April vacation or something like that, have a meeting on a different day, because only having one meeting in April and February.
But you can limit
that's-
Or it
that-
seems like the Memorial Day holiday seems to fall on the third Monday, which then makes all of May, even though it's a busy time of year, only one.
We could call, like city council meets the day after, but, so they meet on Tuesday if
Right,
the holidays
and
on
we do
Monday.
that on
Busier,
other
it's a busier
occasions,
time.
so I think that would be wise of us to do next year.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, let's not add anything to the next, we've already got a bunch of things to talk about, plus an interview with the business manager. So
Right.
I would say at this point, unless it's an emergency, let's not add anything else to it, so we have ample time to discuss it.
So Melissa, would you like to move forward with your?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to accept the MOU that's been proposed for between the school committee and Union B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Isabel, would you like to make the next motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion for the non-contracted employees to receive a 2% increase to their base pay on our list, starting with Baker, ending with Wilson, excluding Woodford, starting retroactively July 1st of 2020.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We have new and old business. Anything to report on the HR report? I know it was,
No, just for information.
and anything on the enrollment?
Enrollment right now for this current year has held.
Okay. Then I have one thing for new and old business. We got the notification for the MASC Superintendent's Conference in November. So folks should probably let Chris know if they're planning to attend so we can get the early bird rates for anybody who wants to do that in November.
Look at us planning.
Does anybody else have anything? Brandon, then Melissa?
I have two things. Just want to echo something that was said what feels like hours ago. Thanks to everybody who made the graduation a super event this year. It was so nice to see some sense of normalcy outside, no masks. And I love that we kept the parents sitting with the kids. Kids probably don't love it as much as I did, but I think it looks good.
I saw a kid holding a hand with somebody, I don't think it was his mother.
And then the second thing is I just want to echo the comments that were made earlier about really exploring that remote option for parents and members of the community so that, you know, if they have kids that they can't get out, can't leave at home, they can still call into this meeting, make their public comment, and listen to what's said, you know, live.
Brandon, you can make a resolution vote without being on the agenda, but it's non-binding, it's just a resolution. You get a vote from the school committee. So, that's up to you. It's a resolution.
I would certainly be in favor of such a resolution. I mean, it's up to, the state has to allow it.
The state has to allow it.
Right.
But they
I
haven't
think-
refused it, so we could currently.
Well, currently, they're sort of saying no, but they need to change their minds because they're wrong.
A resolution is just, this is how we feel, and they
This is
do what
how
they
we
want
feel.
anyway.
So I'm in agreement, so if you wanted to make a motion for such a resolution.
Yeah, I'm
I'd be
happy.
happy to second it.
I'm happy to make that motion for a resolution to allow remote option for the public.
I'm happy to second it.
Right. So, any discussion? I mean, I think just to be really clear to the public, this is a resolution, it's non-binding. It's just that we're in support, but we ultimately need to follow whatever the state mandates. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion, resolution carries. Anything else, Brandon?
Nope, all set, thank you.
Anybody else have anything
Oh,
under?
Melissa has.
Melissa.
I have a couple of really good things just to share because they got missed at the beginning. So congratulations to the high school musical for winning the grand prize at the
Yeah,
Tammy
that was good.
Awards
That was
for
awesome.
Bright Star. The high school getting their national banner recognition from the Special Olympics. Congrats to the spring sports, tennis, softball, lacrosse that got their highest bid ever at LHS. Baseball having a #1 ranking in their pod. And thank you to Tracy Hartman and David Pawazzi for providing that cheerleading event last week that was amazing. For whoever could go, it was a real opportunity for the kids and their families who didn't get to see their kids cheer this season, come and have a beautiful night. So thank you.
I just have one thing.
Yep.
Brandon's done a lot of work on the contract stuff, he's on a lot of committees.
Yep.
He really goes above and beyond. He didn't get a company car, and he didn't get a raise, and he didn't get anything,
Right.
but he does, he was, I think, mostly the only person negotiation-wise that had to deal with, not that it was a bad experience, but, so, thank you.
Thank you.
That should be acknowledged for.
Thank you, everyone. Happy to do it.
Would you like a cookie?
Thanks, Sue.
See? She's giving you somebody else's cookies.
Anybody else have anything?
Motion to
If I could have a
adjourn.
motion
Second.
adjourned? All right, go forth and be safe and healthy.